Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can build your own AI persona for your YouTube channel. Well, the first thing you're wondering is, why would I want something like this? Well, I'm sure you know the struggles of when you are trying to build your own brand or your own social media. A lot of your time is spent in creating the content, usually up to 20 to 30% of your time. However, you would still like to have some sort of interaction with your fan base. Now, many consumers, especially in today's modern day and age, do expect some sort of interaction from the creator. However, given the fact that it is very exhausting having to create content, especially on a daily basis, it is nearly impossible to engage in a one-on-one fashion every single day, especially without the use of automation. So this is where this comes into play. So what do we have here? Well, this is a part 1 of 2 workflow. I will be showing you the other part in just a couple of minutes. So what does this do? Well, for this example, I'm going to be using this guy's YouTube channel. His name is Charlie Hooper, and he has this massive YouTube channel with many millions of followers that lends his knowledge to his viewers on how to be more charismatic, more confident, and give advice basically on day-to-day basis. So there's also another channel he has, which is basically a podcast style, and there was a couple of other interviews that I just added. And I will show you this in a second. So how does this work? Well, once a day, we will be triggering this workflow, and what it will do is it will search your own YouTube channel, and it will check to see if you uploaded videos within 24 hours. Then if you have uploaded a video within that time period, then it will go ahead and it will get the transcript of that video. It will then take all of the text, and then it will upload it into our vector database. For this one, we will be using Pinecone. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what a vector database is, imagine it as just a knowledge base where you combine every single bit of information into a storage place, which can then be accessed by our AI persona. This way, when your viewers interact with the AI persona, it will be able to go through the vector database and be able to create a response based on the information from your YouTube content. So how does this work? So like I said, we have a schedule trigger that triggers once a day. And here you just have the channel URL that you would like to check every single day. Then what I'm doing over here is I'm using an Apify scraper that returns the latest video. In this case, I have it just returning the last video. Then I have this if condition, and this checks to see if the video was posted within the 24-hour time period. Then we use another Apify scraper over here, and this one is what is used to get the transcript of the video. Once we have the transcript, we then use a split out node, which takes in all of the information. Now, if you're familiar with YouTube transcripts, you probably know that they split the text based on the timestamp of this video, so we just use this to get access to the individual text. Then what we have here is an aggregate node over here. This just combines all the text into one single output. Then we take all that text, create a file, which is then uploaded into our vector store. So why don't we try and use this on the latest video over here? Now, I uploaded some of these videos that I just showed you over here. For example, I uploaded the one on how to flip someone from being rude to respectful. I uploaded this interview as well as this one. And I've also done the same for this. So why don't we go ahead and actually see what it looks like in action to use on this video. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is, because since this video was posted 3 days ago, it would not satisfy this command over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect this for the time being. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and test this workflow. So I'm going to click run, and now what it's doing, it's going to go ahead and it's going to get this video and add its knowledge to our vector store. So while this is going ahead and working its magic, why don't I show you what Pinecone is? This is one of the most important things you'll be using, especially when you're dealing with these kinds of agents. So how does this work? Well, this is what we're going to be using to store our knowledge for our agent to access. In order to do this, create your Pinecone account, then you're going to come over to API keys, grab an API key, and then create a connection inside n8n. Once you have done that, come over to indexes, then you're going to click on create index. Now you're going to want to give your index name, whatever you want it to be. Then you can leave everything as default. The one thing that you need to change is the model, and in this case I'm using the text embedding 3 small. Once you've selected that, go ahead and create your index. However, I've already done that, so I'm just going to go ahead and be using this one. Then you are pretty much done for this section. Come back over here to our n8n workflow, and you can see that it actually worked successfully. So let's go over here. I just want to show you what it looks like. So the latest video that was returned was what is the essence of charisma, which if we see over here is the latest video. Then if we go over to the next block, we have the transcript. So like I said, it splits a transcript based on the timestamp, and you can see that there is a lot of fields within here. So what we do is we just use the split out, get only the, we have to use the split out node to make sure we get all access to within these fields here, because you can see it's locked within an array. And then we aggregate all of the text into a single output. So this is basically all of the words that was said within the video. Then convert it to a file and then upload it to our vector store. Now I'm going to show you how to set up this Pinecone vector store. So first, get the Pinecone vector store. Then you're going to want to select the operation mode to insert documents. Select the Pinecone index, which is the name. You can leave this as default. And then now we need to create a Pinecone namespace. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, come back over here. You can see we're within our index called testing. And if you come over here to namespace, this is just basically the location name of where it's going to store all of our information. You can see that we have over 3,000 records over here, almost 4,000. So choose a name for here. You can give whatever name that it is, but you will need to make sure later on, I will let you know when, that this name matches the name in our second workflow. So once you've done that, then you're going to need to give an embeddings model. And if you remember from when we set it up, that you need to select the text embedding 3 small. Make sure that this matches with the Pinecone. Then you will need to give it dimensions 512. If you're unsure on where this number comes from, then you can come back over to your Pinecone and you can see that dimension is 512. So once we're done with that, then you need to give it a document loader. You can just use the default data loader, and the only thing you need to change is the type of data, change it from JSON to binary. Then lastly, give it a text splitter, and I'm just using the recursive character text splitter. These can just be left as default. And voila, that is basically the end of this workflow. So we're going to go ahead and cover the second part of this workflow. So I'm just going to come over here, come over to this second part, and now you can see that this is what is going to be interacting with your audience. So how does this work? Well, we just have a simple chat trigger here. This is just basically a chat interface through which we can communicate with the AI persona. How does this work? So you have an AI agent over here, and the majority of the work is in creating a really good quality prompt. A really good quality prompt and a bad quality prompt is the difference maker in how effective your AI agent operates. So what you will want to do is to create a system message. This is how the LLM identifies. So you can pause the video, feel free to look through this over here. Next, what you need to do is give it a user prompt, which is the instructions on how the AI agent is supposed to interact, or I guess the instructions. So this is a pretty long prompt that I have over here, but basically I am just telling it that as an AI persona that is representing this guy's YouTube channel, and it should be using the vector database to answer any questions that the user might have. Then over here we have where it can recommend YouTube videos if you are asking about a particular topic. I do that by uploading a couple of video titles in here with their URL, and then just a short description so that way our AI persona knows what the video is about and if it is the correct video suggestion. Then over here, I have another section over here. Since this guy has a university or an academia that teaches people on how to be more confident, you would want to basically promote that, and that's what I do inside of here. Then I just have a bunch of other information, rules and such, and then I give it a couple of examples on what it should output or the manner it should output in to act more in a human manner. And then lastly, and perhaps the most important thing, is to make sure you put in the user's message in. So that is what a lot of the work is. Next, you just need to give your AI agent a model. I would suggest giving it a better quality model like GPT 4.1, 4.0, 4.1 mini. I would recommend staying away from like 3.5 or 4.0 mini. I find that the responses are not as good. Then you're going to need to give it some memory. You can change the context window on however much you would like. I think 10 is a good number. It just gives some context on past conversations. Then the most important part is the vector database. So first you need to do the answer questions with vector store tool. If we come into here, you can see that you have to give it a description. This is just telling the AI agent how to use this tool. So anytime the user asks a question, it's going to pass in the query into this tool, which will then be passed into our vector database. And then over here is how many responses will be returned from our vector database. Now, I think 50 is a pretty good number. If you lower this number, you might get less accurate results or not enough information to respond. But increasing this to high will definitely increase the time it takes to respond, as it will need a lot more time to load those responses in. Then you need to give it a model. Very similarly, I recommend using GPT 4.1 mini. Then you need to upload the vector store. So again, using Pinecone, come over here, and instead we're going to have the operation mode as retrieve documents as vector store for chain/tool. Select the Pinecone index, and this is the namespace that I was talking about in the previous one. Make sure that this matches the one you had in the previous workflow. Then once you have done that, come over to the embeddings, and again you want to make sure that these match with the Pinecone settings, very similarly to the previous workflow. And then I have the other tool. This is the Google Sheets that I just showed you a second ago, and this just basically searches the whole Google Sheet and goes through the descriptions of the videos to then return a URL to the user if they want to check a video out. So now that we've covered all the setup, why don't we go ahead and actually test our agent. So come over here, open this up, and why don't we actually ask it a question. For example, let's go ahead and ask it questions on this video. How to flip someone from being rude to respectful. So I'm just going to greet it, say hello there, and now it's going to say, hey, I'm Charlie, great to meet you, and you can read the rest. So now we can see that it is identifying as Charlie, the person who is running this channel. Now let's go ahead and ask our question. So how can I make someone go from being rude to me to acting respectful? So now, as you can see, I'll just lower this over here, but it is now going ahead and querying our vector database, and then it will get a list of responses from our vector database, and then it is going to craft a response. So this can take a few seconds over here because it's dealing with a lot of information, and we'll just go ahead and go through some of this. So you can see that it's actually passing this query into the vector database, and you can see that it's outputting 50 responses, and this is kind of like the sample format it returns in. This is just how the AI agent understands it, and then it'll combine all of that and formulate the response. So he says, all right, when someone is being rude, one of the most powerful things you can do is stay calm and composed. Reacting with anger usually escalates things. Instead, respond with respectful communication, be kind, honest, and assertive. So you can see that one of the key factors about here is how it's trying to sound in a very human way. That is one of the very key things that we want this to achieve. So And then you can see over here, if you want something actionable and easy to start with, I have a video on how to make a rude person regret disrespecting you, which if we come back over here, and I will just say rude, so you can see it actually did go ahead, search through this, and it returned this video. So then you can see it says, does that help? Want to dive deeper into communication strategies or other social challenges? Then it does kind of promote the Charisma University. But let's go ahead and ask it another question. So I just want to ask, what is the essence of charisma? So what exactly is the essence of charisma you mentioned in one of your videos? So now, if you saw from the first part of the workflow, we just uploaded all of that knowledge into the vector database. So now it should be able to tell us exactly what was said within that video. So it says, great question. The essence of charisma, as I talk about in my videos, is really about genuine authenticity combined with emotional connection. It's not just about looking charming or having slick body language. It's about being truly yourself and caring more about your character than your reputation. And you can go ahead and read the rest. So, now I want to ask it a question on his university. So you said I can learn to be more confident. Do you have a school or academy to learn this skill? So now it should recognize that I'm talking about his university. So there you go. He responds, hey, absolutely. I'm really glad you asked. Yes, I created Charisma University, which is basically an online course where I walk you through my full process for building social confidence, improving your charisma, and mastering communication. And it just goes on to describe more. And then it provides you with the link to join that university. So there you go. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video and enjoyed this content. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.